Okay, so I chose the humor effect, and that's a cognitive bias that allows us to remember information when it's funny. It's like almost like a board game, but it's just pathways, and it's just basically like the mesolimbic pathway takes a shortcut. And so the thing that's wrong, the thing that makes this a problem is that it's skipping the whole process. Humor effect would be like it just jumps straight to the conclusion, it just jumps straight to the outcome, where, oh, we just got the reward, so now everything's okay, and then we just store it in our memory. But in reality, I mean, it's skipping the whole process. And so pretty much like a bias is something that goes unnoticed, goes through the process and makes it to the other side rather than getting tossed out, you know. So like the humor effect is taking a shortcut to memory, and it would start right here, where this is how the pathways should begin. At that moment and at that time, we aim for a reward, and we either pass or we fail. And if we fail, we would just start over, just try again. Or if we pass, technically, like, to me, that would be the going through to memory lane. Is once you go through the process, you pass. You know, why we tend to remember funny things is because it happened in the past. Like, it worked for us, it made us feel joy, so we wanted to repeat it. And so that's what we're doing, is we're repeating that same process. But however, discovering new pathways is important. Like, in general, discovering new pathways is always important, because then you make more connections. Yeah, so you would make it into memory by going through the full process. But if something's just funny, we shouldn't really remember just because it's funny, because then otherwise we'd have just a bunch of, you know, memories that are, you know, not even important. And so however, the emotion of joy itself is important, I believe, but just because something is funny material doesn't necessarily make it important. That's the thing. And then when you laugh, you also let off pressure, and so blood pumps faster, and then the oxygen levels increase. And when we have higher oxygen levels, we're more aware. We instantly, like, that's just an instinct, is we just become more aware. So that, because when we're afraid, we need to be able to pay attention so that we can, you know, fight back. So when we're listening to jokes, we're using gamma waves, which is the same thing that we use when meditating. So the gamma waves are the quickest one that we could use. They're 30 to 100 hertz, which are cycles per second, and that would be like that would be the best state to remember information. Then we're able to encode the information, we're able to store the information, and then also store it for later retrieval. That's like the main part. The cog biases kind of guide us. They kind of show us, like, okay, this is reality and this is how you're seeing reality. Fear is no longer like the main thing anymore that's keeping us alive. It's, or at least not 100% of the time. It's only during certain situations that fear can really help. But when it comes to humor, that's a way to, it's a defense mechanism against our own fear. Our own fear is something that festers, and it turns into like stress and anxiety and worry, and these are all just like branches of fear that don't even really serve us any purpose other than heart attacks and strokes in the future. So that shows that this defense mechanism is it's a defense mechanism against our own toxic fear that we've created. And like a lot of times we're watching things that make us even more afraid, that are completely unrelatable to our current lives, and that also, you know, makes a difference. So we need to know what to be afraid of. And then, so when we laugh something off, that's like the best thing you could do to release that tension that could later fester and become a problem.
Um, so the fact that laughing can physically change our state shows that things are changeable. Like nothing's as like solid and fixed as we tend to think that they are. Like we tend to think like reality is like this solid thing, and then like our environment is just this like stable thing, but it is to some extent. But at the same time, it changes. Everything changes. It just depends on like what rate. Like our brains are way more adaptable, and they change at a quicker rate than our environment. But they everything does grow and change that is alive. So that being said, like I mean, if we're able to physically change our nervousness to joy, that is a transformation. It's changing a negative emotion to a positive emotion, and that's transcending, and it's changing our outcome right now. And so I think that's like the important thing is like, even though we see reality a certain way, maybe maybe we need to understand that change is another factor, and we have the opportunity to change, to bring change, um, by just at least being aware. That's the first step, but we can actually physically change it. And all we have to do is just kind of know what decisions to make and what to be aware of. And then we don't have to be afraid of a certain situation or afraid of reality if we can even bring a change to it.